This is the Be the Solution podcast, and I'm your host, Maria Quattrone. And today, let's welcome my guest, Ken Jordan from Princeton Mortgage. Ken is a 20-year mortgage veteran, graduated from Penn State with a degree in marketing, and has three children, 23, Liam, and two daughters, Caitlin and Belle. And he is a branch manager and enjoys coaching youth sports. And he strives to be a better father, husband, leader, loan officer, and friend. Welcome, Ken Jordan, to the Be the Solution podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today, Ken.
Well, thank you for having me. It's my pleasure. I always enjoy chatting and having great conversations with great people. So today I'm really looking forward to our conversation.
All right, so let's dive right in. Ken, it's just been a minute. You've been in the real estate industry, 20 years.
20 years, yep.
20 years. So you were in the industry back in when we went through the Great Recession in 2008 and a difficult time. And we're experiencing a little bit of a difficult time these days, but in a different way. And so I'd like to ask you today, what are you doing and to be the solution?
There are some parallels to 08 to 2011 versus today. But I think that the challenges that we're facing today a lot of them are pretty unique to this market. 2008, I had been in the business, I guess, about 6 or 7 years. And then the market meltdown and all the banks going out of business and the implosions and the bailouts and that stuff, that fun stuff. Those chickens really didn't come home to roost until about 2011. 2011 was a very difficult year in the industry. But if there was one thing that time frame taught the originators that were in the business is that your relationships are everything. And the people that you seek to bring value to are the ones that are going to carry you through the difficult times. And having that confidence, having gone through a struggle once before, but also having learned that valuable lesson, having gone through that struggle once before, I think has been the biggest difference maker going into 2023 and the end of 2022, 2023, and probably the first half of 2024. And that is that A, it will pass. B, it allows you to double down on your efforts if you're disciplined about the things you're supposed to be doing every day, the important but not urgent activities. And C, relationships are everything. And going out and meeting new people and trying to find ways to bring value to those relationships is what's going to carry us as originators and even real estate agents through what is a very challenging market. Even with rates coming down, it's still from an inventory standpoint, from the number of transactions, from the overwhelming number of agents and loan officers that are still in the business, even though the production has dropped, all of those challenges are unique. But if you follow the steps, you'll get through it. I think that's the biggest thing that I learned from 2008 through 2011 that I'm carrying forward today and helping my originators and also the real estate agents that I work with help get them through it as well.
So what does some of those things look like, Ken?
Some of the things that we do?
Yes.
Well, one of the things I love about Princeton is that we're very much a coaching heavy company. Our company culture and resources are really put to good use to help develop the loan officer. And we all, even if we've been in the business 20 years, we all have work that we need to do on ourselves and work that we need to do on our business to be better every day. And with Princeton, we are taught the skill sets, mindsets, and habits that are going to help us to grow our business even in a down market. Some of the things you'll hear around Princeton hallways, even though we're basically virtual, is tracking your productivity. Are you doing we call it your $1,000 an hour work, right? These are the important but not urgent things that you're supposed to do, that the slightest excuse to not do them is often we as salespeople a lot of times have that resistance to picking up the phone and making the phone calls, the prospecting activities. You're making sure that you're even something as simple as doing your handwritten notes and reaching out to your people regularly in a personal way. If you have one loan maybe you could spend some time on that loan instead of doing the prospecting activities. We have that human tendency to want to do that stuff because for whatever reason it's easier, and I think that here at Princeton we focus on those things. We time block our schedule so that the important but not urgent things are already in there. But what we also do is we time block the important things that are important to us too. We time block our family time. We time block our recreation even, so that we can then time block the important but not urgent activities so that our calendar is full and what we're saying no to are the things that are not going to move the needle, right? These are the things that have a tendency to be distractions, that are a time suck or waste of time. When you time block and you fill out your calendar, you're now saying no to some of the things you really should be saying no to. But if you have a lot of white space in your calendar, a lot of times you don't know what you're saying no to. So that's a big part of what we do. And then, what does that look like from a relationship standpoint with our real estate agents? One of the things I love about Princeton is because they're teaching us this stuff on a regular basis, it allows us to internalize it, learn it, and then go out and share this information with our referral partners and help them to be more productive and help them to be more effective in their day-to-day time blocking, whether it's how to keep a productivity scorecard or even just mindsets, ways to ensure that you're operating mentally in the best space. These are all things that we're taught and we get to go out and share.
What are some of those things? What does it look like? What's the scorecard?
Scorecard is once you figure out what those important but not urgent activities are, for instance, prospecting, and even in a lot of ways, your social media efforts. You could accidentally be on social media, Maria, for 2 hours and not realize it, flipping through your reels or liking posts or going back and looking at pictures. All of that is your accidental social media time. But your intentional social media time should be putting together content, coming up with calendars, putting together videos, podcasts, for instance. This is all your intentional time spent. So we have a scorecard that lists out these are the activities that we have to do in order to achieve our goals. And one of the things I always say is that effort leaves a residue. If you work out,
leaves a residue. Okay, explain.
Yeah. So when you work out, you feel it. When you work in the garden or in the yard, you feel it. When you move boxes all day or paint a room, you feel all of that at the end of the day. Like, man, I really worked hard today. Sometimes you could be on the phone all day long and you're tired at the end of the day, right? Your voice is tired. You've been there, right? Where you're just on the phone all day long. At the end of the day, you're drained because you've exerted a lot of effort. But productivity does not leave a residue, right? So productivity, when they ask you at the end of the week, how many phone calls did you make to prospective referral partners or borrowers? How many social media posts did you do? How many handwritten note cards did you send out? How many pre-approvals did you have? If you're not tracking those things, you're not going to feel any of it. You have to track these activities. Otherwise, there's no way for you to tell whether or not you're doing a good job. That's where the scorecard comes in. The scorecard is a way for us to track our activities. Now, there's some arbitrary nature to the scorecard, meaning we take these activities and we value them. It's safe to say that liking a post on social media and putting together a video, those are two different, they're both important, but one carries a little more weight in your productivity. Reaching out to your real estate agents or reaching out to your sphere of influence, your past customers, those all have value of varying degrees. So as a loan officer, we come up with what we think those values are. And again, somewhat arbitrary. But the idea is to have a value. So that way, at the end of the week, you can say, okay, I either got it or I didn't. If I scored 100 on my scorecard, great. That's an effective week. If I didn't score 100 on my scorecard, if I only scored a 50, what went wrong? And it's not about being good or bad or judging or not judging or shame or any of that. It's just, okay, what went wrong? Did I not track well enough? Did I spend too much time on low value activities and not enough time on those high value activities that are going to give you the better score? And it turns it into a little bit of a game, which I think is kind of fun too. At the end of the week, you look at how you did, and the scorecard is the scoreboard. And just like growing up in sports and being competitive, I want to get 100 on my scorecard. And sometimes it might be that Thursday afternoon where or Friday morning where it's like, okay, I'm at an 85 and all I got to do is this, this, and this, and get to my 100. It gives me that little extra push to get to that 100 because that's kind of who I am. And I'm in a constant battle to continue to get better and better each day, and then not necessarily against other people. Although I do ask people to send me their scorecards and we send them to see how each other did for the week, but that's really not the purpose. The purpose is how did you do against what you committed to for that week.
So what does that look like in regards to contacts and conversations? What is the minimum standard on that?
So I keep my scorecard up on my screen every single day, and I've 4 screens, so it's easy for me to say that. But for instance, my morning routine is worth 15 points. I think that in order to be effective, you got to set your day up right. Okay, so gratitude, exercise, and reading are all the first couple things you'll see on my scorecard. And that's the first thing I want to do each day. Spend each time thinking about what I'm grateful for, learning, the reading part, and exercising. So I need to exercise 3 days a week in order to get 5 points. And if the scorecard's set up so that if I only exercise one day, then I don't get the full 5 points. I get a prorated amount of points. From a conversation standpoint, 50 live conversations per week. So for a loan officer to have 50 live conversations per week, that's not going to happen by accident. You have to be intentional about picking up the phone and reaching out to, whether it be, again, agents that you'd like to work with, agents you already work with, customers that you would like to work with, and customers you've already worked with. You got to come up with 50 of those a week. And that's worth 40 points on my scorecard. From there, you get into your social media. So social media for me is 1 post daily. That's worth 5 points for the week. 2 videos a week. That's worth 5 points for the week. Note cards, 2 points per note card that I send out. So if I have a big week and I'm sending out a bunch of postcards, a bunch of handwritten note cards, that's going to give me more points. Update calls in our business is huge. So I'm sure, Maria, you've gotten a call from your lender saying, hey, it's Tuesday. Just want to let you know that the borrower's loan is in process. The borrower's loan is in underwriting. Just that touch point to let the agents in the transaction know that you got your finger on the pulse and everything's going smooth. Update calls for me are worth 15 points if I hit the buyer agent, the buyer, and the listing agent on every transaction. We believe that sales training is important. So we have 3 sales trainings a week, and I look to attend each one of those. And if I attend all the sales trainings, that's worth points. One-on-ones are huge. Face-to-face one-on-ones. And I think this counts in my world nowadays, that if you're face-to-face, even virtually, that still matters. But ideally, you want to be one-on-one, face-to-face with people and just connect with them and talk to them. And then we have gifts. How many gifts did you give out this week? It could be as simple as sending someone a book, sending someone a blueprint, which is one of our things that we do here at Princeton. At the end of the week, it should all add up to 100.
100 points.
100 points.
And if you don't,
recommit the next week. I have over 60 weeks of scorecards on my spreadsheet, which is something that I started doing last October. And there were weeks where I had a 40. There were weeks where I had a 30, right? Again, it's not about beating myself up. You just recommit to the following week. You start fresh on Friday afternoon. That's when my scorecard starts, Friday afternoon. And you work through the weekend and you try and get yourself off to a great start for Monday, and you try and ride the momentum. What's cool is when you get those back-to-back weeks, when you 100, 95, 99, 100, you really have momentum, and that's really what it's about, is building that momentum. And get excited about it. Something somewhat arbitrary, but it still excites me, and it's a nice reminder of the weeks where I didn't do the things that I knew I was supposed to do.
Well, sometimes people are sick or something, that's extremely important comes up. So,
Absolutely.
The important thing is focus on winning each day. And what does that look like? And I think you're right. I think you really need to understand what that looks like. So it sounds like, in your organization, it's 10 conversations every day, 5 days a week to move the needle forward. And then from that, what's the math on that from a production standpoint?
It is tough to quantify what that does for you from an income perspective. I know that there are people that have tried, and whether they're right or wrong, I don't know. But what I do know is that if you want to accomplish anything in life, whether it's increase your production, start your career as a loan officer or as a real estate agent, have a career year, all of those goals that we have. I always say that all you have to do is ask the universe for what it is you want. And I don't know if you ever read The Secret. I'm sure you have, but the law of attraction. The universe doesn't speak English. It doesn't speak Spanish. The universe speaks the language of action. So what I love about the scorecard is it is constantly puts you in action towards your goal. I could say that my average scorecard last year was a 65%. Why is that valuable for me to know? Well, if I look at what I made last year and an average scorecard of 65%, I'm curious to see next year if I do an average of 80 points on my scorecard, is that going to be, am I going to increase my income to that level? I'd love to know that information. I'll have it for you next year when we get back together. But it's tough to quantify what each phone call means to you. But in the real estate business, they say, what is it? Every 100 people in your database is worth a certain amount of money in production. Is that right? Do you know that number?
They say 5%.
5% what?
If you talk to people on average of this year in our CRM, not just my CRM, all follow-up boss, all people that were in follow-up boss, other agents, brokers, etc. Contact to close number was 26.9 contacts. So if you're not committed to going deep in your database and you're only going wide, you're not talking to the people enough times to convert it over to an actual sale. So it's 26.9 contact attempts equals a sale.
Okay.
So that would be,
That's good to know.
Yeah, so I did the numbers. We figured out, I just talked about this today. Sales is math. So you can do the math by the number of conversations to set appointments to presentations, whether that's on our side, it's either a buyer or seller or investor, to sign contracts to closings. And once you figure out those numbers, then all you need to do is divide that by how many weeks you're going to work. And then divide that by the number of days you're going to work per week to get what your daily, it needs to be your daily contact goal. So in my case, it's 23 per day.
23 contacts per day?
Yes, conversations. So I also factored in, though, that the year ends on 10/31 because it's usually a 60-day plus pipeline of business, right? So a lot of people forget that. And so you have to either calculate that into your year or start your year on 11/1 the year before. And if you don't know the numbers, it's hard to get to where you want to go. I can look into the follow-up boss and I can see if people are averaging like 5 conversations a day, 7 conversations a day, it's not going to work because it's not enough conversations to create momentum. And then you got to keep going back to try to create momentum. So you got to do it every single day. So I would say I tell everybody 20 conversations a day, which here's my thought process around it. If you don't have any appointments, what else are you doing?
I agree.
So you can't babysit deals. They're going to close because of you or in spite of you, actually, if the buyers and seller want to close. And so if there are no appointments and you're not doing a podcast or videos like I do, then there's nothing else left to do but to call people. Call, text, and email. Video text, video email. Because when people see you on the video, what do they assume?
They assume they know you. They assume that you're friends.
Yeah, they assume they know you. They think people, when they see video, they think it's TV. Your brain thinks it's TV. So they think, oh, well, she's important. He's important. They must be important. They're on video. They're on TV. And so it also, when you make an appointment with somebody, and if you send them a video, hey, Ken, I can't wait to see you tomorrow for at your house at 123 Main Street. Looking forward. I'm committed to seeing you then. Chances of you not taking my appointment tomorrow at your house are slim, because now it's hard for a human to just ditch another human when they
Yeah,
see
disappointed. I agree.
the face. Right now, there's a connection. They see who you are. They're like, oh, Maria's coming out, or I'm going to Maria's office, whatever. So there's that connection. So all we're trying to do is make it sticky, make the appointment stick. So prior to us having an appointment, let's just say it's a listing appointment, I'll send out an email with a video from me about the company, what we do, and then I have a link for our publicity book, which shows me on channel 610, 1729, Philadelphia Inquirer, Business Journal, etc. So now that's proof of, wow, this woman must be an expert because she's all over TV. She's on 6ABC. So it's about creating that sticking point so that when we do meet, that it's an obvious yes, that they're going to be working with us. So we have all these little things that happen in between the time that we set the appointment and the time that we actually meet with the buyer, seller, investor, etc. This way, we're creating a relationship before the relationship is even happening. We're creating it.
Familiarity is an important thing. We use. I'll give you a little trade secret here at Princeton. We have something called 13 and 30, and when we're looking to develop new relationships in this business, it's not always easy, and sometimes for good reason. Real estate agents have relationships with the lenders that they've been working with sometimes for 15, 20 years. And that loyalty is an important thing. It should be honored, so it's not like you want to, take a relationship away from another person, but you want to be there if and when the time comes that they need a new voice or a new referral partner in the mortgage business. And the 13 for 30 for us is how we convert collisions, we call them collisions, into one-on-one conversations, face-to-face conversations with a referral partner. Our 13 for 30 is when you meet a real estate agent for the first time, you send them a cookie. It's such a simple thing, but it's a $4 cookie, but it really creates a memorable, memorable moment. I think the unexpected part of it is what makes it memorable. Then we do a handwritten note. Then we do postcards. We do videos and phone calls, check-ins at 2 different strategic times, and then we send emails over that 4-week period, and we connect on social media. By the time we get to the 30th day, after all the social media redirecting, the handwritten note, the cookie, the emails, they're very familiar with us at that point. And it's a lot easier for someone to say, oh, you know what? Yeah, let's sit down and chat after they've received all of that from us for 30 days. So it's a little bit different because, in your process flow, you're looking to get into flow with a buyer or a seller. We're looking to get into flow with a referral partner, but the concepts are the same, right? Create the familiarity, create the credibility, and you're going to create that stickiness factor. So I agree 100%.
We're just trying to each day do what we can following the process and not the outcome, because you can't affect what the outcome is going to be. You only can affect the process and master the process. Because I can't decide whether this person's going to decide to sell or not. They might decide that they're not going to sell their house anymore. They may decide that they just, or they lost their job and they can't buy a house anymore. So like I said, we can't focus on the outcome. We only should focus on the process, which eventually will give us an outcome. Because if you don't focus on the process and take the action, then forget about it.
Everything else is accidental at that point.
You can't have a predictable business based on that. But you can have one based on your action, your daily action that you're going to take right now.
You can adjust. If you have a process, you can say, okay, I'm going to make a slight change to the process to potentially see differentiated results. But if you don't have a process, you have nothing to adjust.
So let's talk about mindset a little bit.
Sure.
With this market, the way that it's been over the last year and a half ish, I guess, about that, right?
About that,
What do you
18 months.
see? What do you see out there with people's mindsets? What have you experienced?
The market where it's at right now, from a mortgage person's perspective, is not incredibly desolate. It's not terrible. It's not what it was in 2021 and 2020. And I think that the expectations for those who got into the business just prior to 2020, and the agents, I know real estate agents talk about this a lot too, because it happens in your cycles as well. But like an unrealistic expectation was set for what success looks like in this industry. And most people were tying their self-worth to their U2 or to their production, saying, I'm great because I closed $80 million in production. Well, the reality is most of it was you were in the right place at the right time, and as such, as the production has dropped, we've seen an awful lot of people internalize that as failure, and it's difficult. It's difficult on lenders who feel like they're failing when the reality is they're not failing. It's just not the anomalies of 2020 and 2021. So I think there was a time period where lenders or loan officers or originators had to, come to terms with what success looks like, and really had to redefine what is it we're here to do. Success looks like helping as many people as possible. It's not I didn't invent this phrase, right? Help people get what they want, you'll get what you want. The more people you help, the better off you'll be. And it has helped to kind of redefine what success is. The other thing about the mindset of the industry is that happiness, and this is, I just read a book. I don't know if you've read it, Maria, but it was The Code of the Extraordinary Mind. You read that?
No, I have not.
Awesome.
What's the name of it again?
It's called The Code of the Extraordinary Mind.
What's that about?
So The Code of the Extraordinary Mind, the author is a former computer coding engineer and shifted into entrepreneurship, still around the technology space, but in an entrepreneurship way. To me, it's like the Think and Grow Rich of Silicon Valley. And it's really introduces and reiterates a lot of the same concepts from Think and Grow Rich. But what I loved about some of the takeaways, like they talked about bending reality, and I won't do a disservice, and if you get a chance to read it, you'll love it. But it just talks about what we focus on expands, and a lot of times you don't see. Your brain is inundated with information on a regular basis, inundated. And it's up to us to actually filter out what information we want to see and what information we don't want to see. And because we control that which we see and what we don't see, we can actually change the reality of what's going on around us. And because we're only seeing potentially all our blessings instead of seeing our adversities because we choose to. And all of a sudden we bent reality to, we live a life of, abundance rather than scarcity when, it all depends on how you look at it. It's overly simplified, but one of the things that he said in this book is that one of the keys to happiness is progress towards a goal. And I think that to answer your question about where's the mindset right now, I think we're in a place where loan officers are starting to, now that they've had a chance to come to terms with what the market really is, set new objectives, meaningful objectives, but set new meaningful objectives, and then start making progress towards those objectives. I think that that's going to bode really well for the loan officers that stuck it out, because I think that the next couple of years we may not see a rise to the top like we saw in 2021, but I think you're going to start to see more people making progress towards their individual objectives, and I think that's a good thing. It's good. I think you're going to see a lot more happy people in the industry in the next couple of years.
I follow a bunch of people, and my dad being one of them, and he had a lot of really great guests on his podcast this year. And Tony Robbins was one of them. And he talked about, like years are in terms of fall, winter, spring, summer. And right now we're in the winter, and they're expecting the winter years to last the next 6 to 8 years. And so I feel as though there's going to be, which when you're in the winter, right, it's cold, it's uncomfortable, it's damp. It's not in the fall when spring, you're frolicking around and you're not wearing a coat. No, you got to bundle up, right? You got to go out there and conquer the cold and be uncomfortable. And I think that during these times that you are uncomfortable, that's where the real opportunity for growth happens. It's an opportunity, I think, to take the opportunity to grow your business. We're entering in a time where a lot of baby boomers are starting to retire. They already have been, but there's the largest amount of them retiring coming soon. And so most of those won't sell their business. So that means that there is an opportunity to get that new client that may have been somebody else's in the past that now is no longer just not working anymore. And so I think that there's a tremendous opportunity. So you're a Gen Xer, right?
Yeah, I'm right on the border, but yeah, I think I classify as a Gen X.
So it's a segment of the population that's used to hard work. I think that there's parts of the baby boomers are used to that. They're used to working hard. I think the younger generations are not really. The issue with that is the lack of resilience, lack of struggle. And struggle builds character, builds resilience. And in the industries that we're in, you have to be resilient. You have to be consistent. Because if you're not consistent, then you got to keep starting all over again, and it's exhausting. So resiliency and saying, getting up and getting going every single day. I'm in the office today. Okay. I actually work in the office every day. So I know that you work from home. A lot of people work from home. But I went into our call log, and I could see no phone calls. Like, the day after Christmas, there's plenty of things that you can be doing in your business, especially if you're not where you want to be. And everybody else is taking off. So I look at this as an opportunity, right, to do more while other people are taking off. I'm not saying there's anything wrong about taking off, but if you're not where you want to be in your business, you damned as hell sure should be doing work right now. That's my thought on it anyway.
I think you're right, and we have more control over the nature of our business than we care to admit. I think that oftentimes it's the reason people don't track. They don't track because if you track, then you know, and if you know, then you know, right? They'd rather kind of have that plausible deniability. I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing, and I'm not getting the results I'm looking for. Well, are you doing everything you're supposed to be doing? You don't know unless you're tracking. You don't know. And I think that mirror, the scorecard or your call log, all it is a mirror. It's a mirror. You can see it's a reflection back to you of what you put into the day or to the week. And if you're doing all the things you're supposed to be doing, then you'd have the results you were looking for. If you're not doing all the things you're supposed to be doing and you're in denial about it, then you're a victim. Then you're just a victim. You lose all power when you're a victim. At least I know. Okay, I got a 40 last week. I know I got a 40, and I'm empowered to change that. But that's where tracking your productivity, looking at your call logs, that's where all that comes into play when you're really meaningfully trying to grow your business.
100%. You don't know what you don't know. So you can't improve what you don't know. You can't measure what you don't know. Right? So either you have a picking up the phone problem or you have a conversion problem. And calling people just to check in is not, hey, calling just to check in. You don't even know the person. Talk to them twice. About starting it like, hey, happy holidays. How was your holiday? Or happy New Year next week.
Or I saw so-and-so graduated college. That's Facebook is the best conversation starter. You get your social media, you check social media, something great happens. Instead of liking the post, pick up the phone, especially if they're in your sphere of influence. Pick up the phone and call them. Congratulations.
Yeah, the sphere of influence is a little bit different. You should have something noteworthy to talk about. And I'm talking about just calling people that you don't really know that, they're in the database. They might have reached out 2 years ago and nobody's talked to them. So being able to converse as a human, working from your heart. I hear so often people reading scripts. That's fine. We need to ask the questions. But before that, just engaging with people. And that takes a lot of practice. That's a lot of phone calls. That's a lot. It's a lot and it happens over time. Because before that, that's why you have the script. So you can say something that makes sense. But really asking people like how they are doing, people will say something and I'll be something back based upon what they said. Right. So I can't, and you learn really the act of really to people. And I've gotten pretty good at listening to people since I've been probably done about 160 interviews, podcasts or more. There's more because I was on so maybe a couple hundred, 200 or something. As you do those, you get better at listening. You get better at listening, you can solve people's problems, hence be the solution. Right? When we talk about being the solution, how can we bring solutions forward? I believe in my heart of hearts, if this agent doesn't come work with us and they're going to get stuck in some other place, it may not be the best fit for them. Or if it's a seller who's already been on the market and they didn't sell and they go to somebody other than us. I know if they come to us, we'll get it sold. They go somewhere else, it might be a crapshoot again. The barrier to entry in real estate is so low, as well as mortgage. So you really need to be working with experts like yourself who've been in the industry 20 years, like myself has been in the industry a month shy of 20 years. And I think that there's an enormous opportunity ahead of us during the dark times, during the winter season that we are in. Our economy, you have, inflation that's up. Gosh, clothes and shoes and food cost like 20% more. Cars, houses, more, 40% more. Everything's more expensive. So, and that's another thing, adjusting your expectation to what you think. Oh, I could have got this house then, or I could have sold my house then for XYZ. Now it's not right, but you didn't. That's the thing. So that's come and gone. We have to deal and live in reality land.
Yeah.
Which is
the reality is the present, right?
Yeah, reality land. Whatever that is. And I think, Ken, I don't know about you, but I think what happens is people get into fear and overwhelm. And then that doesn't produce action. So dumbing it down to just today. If today's a work day for you, just today, what are the things that you need to do daily to move the needle forward? And I think if we all just do that, and all will be well.
I think there's more. I'll add to that and a compliment to you, Maria, because your willingness to be available to people, the fact that you're putting out the content you're putting out, you're serving people, and they see your mindset, they see your energy, and it attracts them to you. And I think that as salespeople, especially, we have to be so protective and of our energy. We have to remember that we create our energy. And when you're doing the things you're supposed to be doing, you feel good. We all know what that integrity feeling is when you come home from the gym versus that integrity feeling when you didn't go to the gym, right? You knew you were supposed to and you didn't. You know what that feels like? And you knew what you were supposed to and you did, and you know what that feels like. That energy is contagious. That energy is felt by the people that are close proximity physically, but also close proximity digitally too, and virtually. People are in close proximity to you every time they see you on social media talking. And being able to continue to keep that energy up means that you're doing all the things you're supposed to do to keep your integrity and your energy level high. That's another reason why tracking and you said, what are the things I need to do today? It's not just about the goal. The goal obviously is important, but it's about who you are being and the energy that you're putting out because you're a person of integrity that's attracting people to you, that's going to help you in unexpected ways. You can quantify, if I make this many calls, I'll get this many transactions, but a portion of that conversion ratio is simply, I was there for somebody one day and had good energy, and they were attracted to me, and I was able to, had nothing to do with how many calls I made that day, but making the calls keeps you in that place of integrity, which keeps your energy up, levels up, keeps your mood up, keeps your integrity up, and that's what people are attracted to. And that's why it's so important to get up and do the things you say you're going to do that day. If you don't, great, fine, whatever. Start again tomorrow.
That's the thing. Every day that we don't do it, it gets easier and easier not to do whatever that is.
Yep.
Right. So I don't know that I told you number 23, right? I know that's based on national averages. So for me, I'll just do that number 23, and it might be way more that comes from it.
Sure.
Right. And then I can adjust it. I can adjust it based on, I might adjust it down based on what comes from that. But I think too, as a leader, when you're breaking it down for people, you have to do your part just to show and model. So showing and modeling the work, and work works, Ken.
It does.
Work works.
It does.
That's my favorite saying. If you do the work, eventually it will work, as long as you don't give up. And don't you ever, 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 ever give up. So this has been a great episode today with you, Ken Jordan. Thank you so much for being my guest on Be the Solution. I wish you the best, and I look forward to having you on the show again. How can people reach you if they want to reach out?
They can find me on Facebook, pretty easy to find, and Instagram. My Instagram handle is real name Bill, because I'm William Kenneth Jordan, and this was before I knew I was going to use an Instagram for business, but real name Bill, or you can find me on Facebook. Yeah, or you can just ask any top real estate agent in Pennsylvania, and they'll have my phone number in their cell phone. Oh, I wish.
Fantastic, Ken. Thank you so much.
You bet. My pleasure. Thank you for having me. I enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun, and I can't wait to chat again.